Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Off and running, hour number 3 after further review here on a Tuesday. Presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Musso in for Moscona. Jordan Kitchens, Paul O'Neill, they're along for the ride. And happy all of you are along for the ride as well. Maybe it's your first day back at work from the Memorial Day holiday and you're just getting in your car driving home. We appreciate you making us a part of your day. Been a great show so far. Still a lot of good stuff yet to come. Ross Jackson, he's going to join us in about 13 minutes. Saints hit the field for OTAs on Wednesday, open up the organized team activities. Give a brief preview, a look ahead from Ross. Some things to keep an eye on. The first time we get to see the Saints free agents acquisitions on the field. So some thoughts there from Ross and just kind of some overall offseason thoughts on what he's seen from Kellen Moore here in his second offseason as the New Orleans Saints head coach. But in the meantime, before we get to Ross, I want to dive a little bit back into some LSU baseball. Offseason officially here for Jay Johnson and the Tigers. In the 4 o'clock hour, we talked about the pitching staff, just kind of set the table, kind of for your offseason there. And since then, we've already had one announcement. Maverick Rizzi appears he is leaving the LSU program after 2 seasons. The pitching staff, looking at that, was kind of a mess. We're looking at the position players now, and this is a little bit more cut and dry. So, for the sake of this exercise, I am going through this, looking at all your draft-eligible players and saying that they're gone, outside of John Pearson. But like Milam, I'm assuming he's gone. Curiel, assuming he's gone. Brown, assuming he's gone. So that eliminates those 3. Then you look at the players who are just flat out of eligibility. And you look at guys like Tanner Reeves and Zach York and Chris Stanfield and Braden Simpson and Seth Dardar. All right, that's 5 more. So right there, you're at 8. And for the sake of this exercise, it leaves some pretty big holes. So what do you have returning? Mason Braun, who hit .314 as a freshman, got 140 at-bats. That's a guy who has real power as well that you saw on display a little bit. I mean, his first home run was an opposite field shot down the left field line on a fastball up and out of the zone that he just muscled out of the park. There's a lot more in that. Can he just tap into that game-wise? We'll see. He's also a guy who provides a lot of flexibility for you. He can play first base. He can play corner outfield. That's a really good piece that you have returning there. Cade Arambidi, Omar Cerna. How they structure those guys' roles is going to be very intriguing to me. Arambidi in his draft year is going to demand the lion's share of the reps at catcher, as he should. But that's also a position you've just been weak at. But Arambidi, Cerna give you 2 options at catcher with further development there. And we know what those 2 guys are offensively, so you feel great there. Jack Ruckert. Again, we're assuming Stephen Milam is gone. Can Jack Ruckert slide over and play shortstop? That's a young man who ended up playing in 39 games this year with 18 starts, got 69 at-bats on the year, hit .232. But that's because he had a rough SEC tournament. Heading into the SEC tournament, Ruckert was around .250, which as a freshman, that's very good. He also finished the season with 9 walks to 11 strikeouts. So the plate discipline was very, very good for him. And the defense really came along late in the season for Ruckert. Pardon me. But even if he doesn't slide over to short, okay, he's right there at second base for you. William Patrick, you figure he's going to occupy one of those outfield spots for you. And then that's where you get into the question marks. But right there, that's a good core of what you have coming back. And guys who played a lot of baseball for LSU down the stretch. Like, that was the value, part of the value they got out of this season going as awry as it did. But what do you do after that? I look at third base, I look at John Pearson, I see a guy who did a lot of good for LSU. 114 at-bats, 8 homers. It's a good pace. You get him to 150, 160 at-bats, that's double-digit homers. That's production. That's a guy who's going to have a role for LSU's team next season. I'm just not so sure that role is at third base. Can it be? Sure. He had some nice moments defensively, down the stretch of the season. But he also led LSU's team with 8 errors. 6 of those coming at third base. The way I kind of put it with John Pearson is that guy absolutely has a role on your team. He is a productive player. You like the power numbers, but there's just not a moment for me this season where I looked at it and went, okay, I've seen all I need to. He's your third baseman going forward. He's on this team. He has a role. For me, I'm just not sold that, okay, he's your third baseman going forward, and there's no question there. I think that's a competition there. And then guys who are returning, with the pitchers, we looked at this in a sense of, okay, there's some draft eligible guys who could take the money because they don't have a lot of leverage, or they could enter the transfer portal. One guy I look at that could absolutely fit that here for LSU, Trent Caraway has another year of eligibility. He's a junior. It didn't go the way he wanted to. The production wasn't there. He was also nicked up. But that's a guy that still has a lot of ability. Is he back at LSU? If so, that's somebody that can compete potentially for a corner or middle infield spot. I'll come back to the outfield, but Eddie Yaman's interesting in that role as well. Yaman went through senior day, but Jay Johnson has said the plan is for Eddie Yaman to return. Well, that's a guy who's played some corner outfield for you. He's played some first base in his time if you want to move Braun. They have options there. And then you look at a guy like Ethan Claus, who, by the way, hit a yak in the Northwoods League last night. His father posted that on social media. He got 4 at-bats. It's 4 at-bats. That's a type of player that has left LSU in the portal. Not saying he's going to, but that's also the type of player that has, and in the same vein, that's the type of player that Jay Johnson probably wants to emphasize returning. Like a Mikey Ryan, right? Because who knows? Claus got plenty of ability. It's a good glove. There's power in the bat. He could take a big jump for you. So you have a lot of options there on the infield. When you get to the outfield, they get a lot less. We said Patrick's going to occupy one of those. Braun can play some outfield for you. Yaman, he's expected back. Went through senior day. We'll see what that actually holds. He can play outfield for you. Daniel Harden got 19 at-bats. That's a guy who just spent his junior season at LSU after the first 2 in junior college. Has the role really developed to what he wanted it to be? Probably not. Does he seek another opportunity potentially in the transfer portal? It's a great athlete. It's a guy who had 7 hits and launched 2 homers in that. Show you the ability, but it was only 19 at-bats. The opportunities were just really limited there. Does he look for another opportunity? Potentially. Outfield has got to be a major priority for this team in the portal. Middle infield as well. Because if you do lose Steven Milam, maybe you're not comfortable moving Jack Ruckert over there, you need to go get a shortstop. Like if there's a high-end shortstop in the portal that you feel good that you can go grab, nab him if Steven Milam is gone. If he's back, obviously there's no need. And then I'm going to tell you first base as well. If you can go get an elite power-hitting first baseman with Mason Braun's versatility that he can play the outfield, I'm here for that. you're only at 2 catchers. You probably need to go add a catcher in the portal as well. Specifically one that excels defensively. And what you could very well see is what you saw at parts of 2023 where you use the defensive replacement late in the game, but you don't really want to take a bat like Aaron Beatty or Cerna out of your lineup either. Catcher is going to be fascinating to me because you have to be better defensively there. And Jay Johnson, I mean, he's acknowledged that and even talked on his radio show earlier this year about potentially bringing in like a consultant to specifically work with the catchers defensively. Not a full-time staff member, any of that, but somebody to come in and give them just a different voice, a different look, and see if they can't take that position to the next level. And a guy like Cade Aaron Beatty, he really wants that. Y'all, that's what's preventing him from being one of the top picks in next summer's draft. Because the bat, the power, all of that is there. The defense is the next step there. So catcher is going to be fascinating. I'll be curious to see if they do add a catcher in the portal with a defensive acumen. But the thing is, they have plenty that they can retain offensively and in the field that lays the foundation, but you have to go get some outfield help. I'd get another middle infielder. You're bringing in 6 middle infielders, I do believe, in this signing class. So you'll have numbers there, but can you get a little bit more experience? Because if Steven Milam goes, you are not very experienced there up the middle, which is where you have to be in college baseball, in baseball in general. So file those away. That's really big. I mean, outfield has to be a major target for LSU because it's where you return the least. And you really want to rely on a bunch of freshmen coming in. You'll see some portal action there. I would be shocked if you don't. That's just a little bit of a set the table here for you for the LSU position players as we look ahead into the offseason and into the 2027 year number 6 under Jay Johnson. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. Saints are on the practice field. OTAs get underway Wednesday. Ross Jackson talks about it next on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com, yourgoodwood.com. Yes, hormone replacement therapy. Yes, NAD+. Yes, BPC 157. Yes, ED treatment. The bottom line is, gentlemen, I don't care how old you are. It's about how old you feel. And do you want to feel like you did when you were younger? Do you want to live a more vital life? Do you want to live a more energetic life where you wake up in the morning, your feet hit the floor, and you're rip-roaring ready to go, where you're motivated to get in the gym, where you have a great libido, where you have great mindset, energy, mental clarity, memory, all that sort of stuff? It's possible. It's affordable. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness can help you do it. Hormone replacement therapy could be a giant part of that for you. NAD Plus can literally help your cellular optimization to make you younger at a cellular level. BPC 157, tremendous in helping in recovery. Learn more. yourgoodwood.com.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
We're brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham. Mid-City on Don Moore, Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. You know those 4 locations, and what an awesome time to get by Clegg's Nursery because they still have every single day shipments of flowers coming in, plants, trees, shrubs. You want to beautify the exterior of your home. You want to add that pop of color to your flower bed, to your patio pots. Maybe you got unwanted pests like ants or snakes or mosquitoes, wasps. They can help you take care of all of them. Maybe you got weeds coming up in your lawn. You want to get rid of that. Maybe you got dead spots in your lawn. The horticulturists, the professionals at Clegg's Nursery have the knowledge, the know-how, the expertise, and all the products you need to win Yard of the Month every month for your whole life. Guaranteed. Actually, I can't back that up. You have to do some of the work, too. It's Clegg's Nursery.
Saints hit the practice field Wednesday. Open up their first round of OTAs. Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, locked on Saints. He'll be out there. He joins us now to give a little bit of a look ahead. Ross, we appreciate you as always, my man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely appreciate you making the time. Let's start here. Kellen Moore, year 2. Have you noticed any differences in the head coach here in his second offseason with the Saints?
Yeah, I'd say he's a little bit more kind of settled in and comfortable. I think what I'm really looking forward to seeing is what do those differences look like when he gets to practices and all these other things. Like the only thing we've seen so far is kind of the couple of rookie mini camp practices, which allow a little bit of a look into what's going on, but not really a full kind of deep dive available coming from those. And so really interested to see what else, kind of changes, things like that he's going to be implementing going into his second year and seeing how the scheme and how his offense evolves as well. I think those things will probably be a little bit more telling.
Would the changes be like schedule wise? Would the changes be like what? Like I'm just curious. You said he's more settled in. So like what really would you look for there?
Yeah, I think that the scheduling would be interesting to see kind of how he goes about, are we going to see longer practices? Are we going to see different, types of practices integrated? Do we see, new drills, things like that? Like how do you change that environment to keep people engaged going into a second year? And what have you learned and how do you apply it? I think it's those types of kind of more intricate things that'll be interesting to see. And then the rest of it happens on the football field when the games actually begin. But I would certainly say that he's settled in. He feels a little bit more comfortable, speaking to the media, feels a little bit more comfortable in terms of the way that he, conducts himself in those ways as well. Nothing out of the ordinary from what you would usually see from a head coach that's going from year 1 to year 2.
Another thing we'll get to see here in OTAs is the free agents on the field for the first time. Let's start on defense, Ross. I mean, they added plenty. Martin Emerson, they added Caden Ellis, obviously Tyree Wilson. Like they added at every level there. Which free agent defensively are you most looking forward to seeing for the first time in OTAs?
Defensively, specifically, I think it's probably going to be Caden Ellis. Look, training camp environments, there's no contact. Particularly OTAs, the competition's kind of throttled down a little bit. You will see some competitive drills and things like that. But what you really get, no matter what, is you get to see the communication. You get to see how these guys fit, run fits, how they follow the flow, play flow of the offense, how they read and react to what the offense is doing. Can they get in position? All these other things. So you kind of get to see the eye discipline, all these pieces. You still get to see and evaluate all of that. And to see sort of, a leadership loss for the Saints with they had in Demario Davis, you're not really looking for somebody to come in and do the exact same thing that Demario Davis's, style of leadership was. You're looking for somebody to come in and sort of begin a new kind of direction of leadership. And Caden Ellis is going to be one of the core fundamental pieces to exactly that, along with safety Justin Reed. And so very, very intrigued to see, and look, we've gotten to see Caden Ellis in New Orleans before, right? Yep. So now what does he look like after 3 years away as a starter and a team captain, coming in and commanding a defense a little bit differently than maybe what we saw before? So really, really intrigued to see what he brings to, a limited exposure opportunity when it comes to OTAs, but definitely an opportunity to be vocal, make calls, all these other things.
I'm asking you this in May, Ross. That's kind of tough, but do you think rotations at linebacker change any without Demario Davis? Or is this, all right, Caden Ellis, we brought you in to go do that role. You're going to go be on the field every single down and every single game?
Yeah, I do think that the rotation looks a lot different going into 2026. And really one of the biggest reasons why is, we saw pretty heavy rotation at linebacker last year with Pete Werner rotating out on third downs for Isaiah Stallberg pretty often. We saw every third possession in each half, we would see Danny Stutzman come in and take over that role next to Mario Davis as well. So now I think what you're looking at is, okay, are there more specific game situations where Danny Stutzman comes in as opposed to the rhythm of the third possession of each, half and things like that, where they were just kind of trying to get a look at the guy. Is there a specific game situation now that he's involved in, sort of like what we saw with Isaiah Stallberg on third downs? And then the other piece to it too is, does Caden Ellis's pass rushing acumen allow him to be able to come down and play sort of that outside linebacker role while somebody else moves into that Mike or Will linebacker role, right? Where they're kind of one of the inside linebackers in coverage. Does a third down opportunity give you the chance to get both Danny Stutzman and Isaiah Stallbert on the field while you move Caden Ellis down to what we would typically look at as a defensive end edge rusher spot? And so I think his ability and versatility as a pass rusher, where he has all of these incentives built into his contract, really creates a greater opportunity for more rotation and more kind of specific game planning that's tailored to the situation that the offense is in.
Flip sides of the ball. Free agent you're most excited to see on the field offensively?
Yeah, I think that's got to be Travis Etienne Jr. Man, it's just he's such a dynamic piece that this team was able to land in this free agency process. And I know that the draft has happened since then, and so some of the excitement around the free agency class has kind of been overshadowed, or at least maneuvered in a certain way. Refocused in a certain way. That free agency class on the offensive side is going to do a lot for New Orleans, between Travis Etienne as well as tight end Noah Fant, and then you're adding as well David Edwards over on the offensive line. But man, Etienne's ability to produce as a rusher has run for over 1,000 yards for 3 of the last 4 seasons. The Saints haven't had a 1,000-yard running back since the 2017 season, which is when Mark Ingram went for over 1,000 yards. So it's been nearly 10 seasons they've had that. Alvin Kamara has gotten very close. He had like a 937-yard year. 2 years ago, he had a 950-yard year. But now you add in a guy like Travis Etienne Jr., who feels like a lock to get 1,000 rushing yards. And then you add in his ability to catch out of the backfield, his ability as a pass protector. There's just a lot of reasons to be excited about what it is that he can do. And even in an OTA format where the run game isn't necessarily easy to evaluate, it'll still be really interesting to just sort of see, how does he process? How does he hit his blocks, hit the hole where the blocks are? How does he get involved in the passing game? All of that. I think he's probably the guy on offense that's most exciting to watch.
Can't really talk about him without talking about Alvin Kamara, his supposed running mate in the backfield. They don't really feel like they're in any hurry to make any type of announcements or get this thing resolved with Alvin. I mean, OTA start. I don't know if they're even really expecting Alvin Kamara there. I'm not. But is there any real reason to expect some finality during this OTA period with the Kamara situation?
I think the only thing that maybe brings some finality to it, or at least some progress to it, is the logistics of if Alvin Kamara attends an OTA, he'll be in the building, and therefore the conversations can happen. But is that conversation really happening with Alvin, or is that conversation happening with his management and his representation? And so what's really, does that really move the needle just because he's in the building, right? So, look, he's not a guy that often or that consistently participated in OTAs. He did. But, it's not like a Cam Jordan situation where Cam hadn't missed a single OTA in his 15 seasons and all. And so I think it says more if Alvin Kamara is present than it says if he's not present, because that would kind of be par for the course in that way. Maybe mandatory minicamp is where things can get a little spicier and more interesting, since that is mandatory while OTAs are voluntary. So maybe that tells you a little bit more at that point. But, look, everything that the Saints have said since the Hall of Fame Golf Classic that they had about a week ago is that they were hoping to have to kind of figure things out in the next week or two. Now, I don't know if that means figuring out the contract in that time or figuring out what his fit is on the roster at that time. But whatever it is, they wanted to have things figured out. I do think that when you get into OTAs, you'd like to know at least an idea of, okay, these are the players that we're looking at in these situations and in these roles. And so maybe that's the piece of the conversation that gets settled by then. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire situation has resolution by then, as those OTA practices aren't mandatory. So maybe the mandatory minicamp going into June would probably be more a solid date to aim for.
I have a couple more for you, Ross. We're talking with Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, Locked On Saints, on Twitter, X, at Ross Jackson NOLA. So what am I supposed to make of the Saints running back room then? Because I feel like this has been a conversation really for the last, handful of off seasons. What do they have there? At that point, it was behind Alvin Kamara. Now it's behind Travis Etienne, because, we've seen the struggles of Kendre Miller. Devin Neal has promise, but he struggled to stay on the field. Audric Estime at the end of last season showed some promise. They have bodies there, but, the room just kind of feels like a hodgepodge in a sense.
Yeah, I think maybe that's part of why the Saints have spent so much time, or at least have noted that they're spending so much time in evaluating where Alvin Kamara fits, is because they got to figure out what that room actually is. And you're right, it's kind of Travis Etienne Jr. and then a lot of guys start waiting to prove themselves more than anything else. I mean, Kendre Miller has dealt with, I think it's like 7 different injuries that have cost him games since he entered the NFL, including last year's ACL tear, which ended his season in the 7th week of the year, in which he had career highs in carries, but as well as rushing yards. But we're talking about 40-plus carries for 193 rushing yards. We're not talking about huge career highs here. And then, you saw some promise with Devin Neal, but because of the timing of his hamstring injury, which was something he also dealt with during training camp, you're kind of hoping that getting an actual off season maybe helps him be in, shape and ready to go. Not in shape, but, have the sort of body comp needs and, that he's not, I think as Kellen Moore called it, like not a track athlete coming into the NFL, and so he can, be ready for an NFL season without having to worry about running a 40 and kind of doing all this other offseason stuff, that maybe that brings him into a new stratosphere. And then you're hoping that Audric Estime maybe can, continue some of the promise that he showed at the end of last season. I think if Alvin Kamara ends up not being a part of the picture or whatever, I think your 2 most promising guys behind Achane are Neal and Estime right now. I think it's such a massive question mark about Kendre Miller. The talent's there, but can he stay on the field is such a massive question mark. And we're talking about a guy like Devin Neal, who dealt with hamstring injuries twice last season, but going back to training camp included, but hadn't missed a single game due to injury in his 50-something games that he played over it with Kansas. And so what can you do to get him back to that and staying on the field? Maybe those are the 2 guys that end up kind of populating that room if Alvin Kamara is not a part of the equation. But I definitely think that this team is, and I think it's hard to argue that they're not, but I think this team is better with Travis Etienne Jr. and Alvin Kamara as opposed to Travis Etienne and without Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, look, you said it's hard to argue. I don't want to be the person on the other end of that argument, because I completely agree with you there, Ross. Last one for you. What type of schedule were you expecting to see Jordan Tyson and Christian Miller on here in OTAs?
Yeah, I would expect them to probably have some days to where they're not participating. Now, it's going to be a little tricky to track because there are days, there's kind of 2 or 3 days of practices in each of these OTA sessions over the course of a couple of weeks, but only one of each of those days is accessible by the media. And so there are going to be days to where he's there, but then he participates the day where media is not present. There are going to be days to where he doesn't participate in the days that we're present, but then doesn't, or then does in days that we're not. And so it's going to be a little bit of a, kind of a moving target on all of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 or 2 of the practices that we're in attendance for that he's not participating. And that's a completely understandable thing. I was actually surprised going into rookie minicamp that he was on the field at all. I was surprised to see him the first day, because I just figure, you got a guy that is your top commodity, top 10 selection, and he's got this, kind of hamstring injury that he really pushed to the limit, staying on the field and playing through the initial injury again in the win against Texas Tech when he was still with Arizona State. And so having him out there to participate in, to be thrown at and thrown to or in the general direction of by tryout quarterbacks was a bit surprising to me. And so you want to get him some early exposure with Tyler Shuck. OTAs makes a lot of sense, but you don't have to do it 100% of the time. So I think for both of those guys, Jordan Tyson and Christian Miller, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them maybe once or twice in the 3 days that we have, but I would expect to see them at some point while media is in attendance.
He is Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, LouisianaSports.net. You can get over there, read his stuff, get subscribed up to the podcast as well. He does a great job, and he's always very generous with his time here with us on AFR. Ross, we appreciate it as always, man. We'll talk soon.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. You take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you do the very same. That is Ross Jackson. We're going to grab a break. We will come back on the other side with more from AFR and more from SEC spring meetings. A couple other coaches have now also weighed in on college football playoff and things of that nature. It's been a very eventful 2 days down in Destin with the SEC spring meetings. As we, Greg Sankey said he thought they were overhyped. I gotta kind of disagree with Greg. This has been some pretty entertaining stuff coming out of the spring meeting. So just a little bit more on that here. And we still have Outer Locks to get to as well to close out the show here. It's a Tuesday edition of AFR presented by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. More next.
After further review.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, do what injured people in Louisiana have done for more than 30 years. Call Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. 888-8888. It's all eights. 888-8888. I don't even need to give you the area code because no matter where you are in the state, it doesn't matter. Just dial 888-8888 for Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Gordon does an awesome job, man. He's a great person. They've been so invested in our communities with all the charitable and service work that they do. They give back into the communities that they represent, no matter what time of year. If it's the bike giveaway for kids around Christmas time, if it's the laptop giveaway around back to school time, if it's the charitable work they do during October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they're always involved in the community. We tell you all the time, of course, about the G team and what Gordon's done with NIL and the opportunities that he's afforded student athletes. Just a great, great community partner. If you've been injured, you need representation, go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, as we say, together we roar. Part of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System. And, you know, I love telling you about Our Lady of the Lake because whenever we talk about healthcare, Our Lady of the Lake understands the two things primarily that people want are access and convenience. And they knock that out of the park. Whether it be at the regional medical center, if it's the lake after hours, if it's any of the specialty services that you may need, heart, stroke, cancer, pediatrics, you want the best. You want Our Lady of the Lake. You can learn more about the Championship Health Partnership, OLOLRMC.com/LSU, OLOLRMC.com/LSU. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar.
SEC spring meetings going on in Destin here this week. And look, I mean, it's very similar to media days. Greg Sankey opens it up on Monday with a 40-some-odd minute press conference, and then select coaches take their turns. Lane Kiffin took a turn here on Tuesday, and a couple really intriguing things. They did ask him about Ed Ogeron and bringing him back. We'll get to that. But the thing that's of most pressing is an update on Sam Leavitt. So you'll remember earlier this offseason, Lane Kiffin confirmed to Wilson Alexander in that interview he did with On 3 that Sam Leavitt would be ready for fall camp. Full go, ready for fall camp. And this is just a further, that drives that point home further. Credit Pete Thamel for this quote. He posted it on his Twitter. Lane Kiffin at SEC spring meetings said that quarterback transfer Sam Leavitt ran 21 miles per hour on the GPS the other day as he recovers from the Liz Frank injury. He's set to be ready for summer camp. Yo. He's a guy who had the pins removed midway through spring. Really, what was that? Late March? I think it was March 31st, the day that Lane Kiffin spoke about that on the record. Comes back at the end with the 7-on-7 there in their final little scrimmage on April 28th. And now you fast forward a month later on May 26th, and he's up to 21 miles per hour on the GPS. That is a great sign for Sam Leavitt. Be able to have him go through summer camp, all that fully, training camp, all that fully. Be ready to go for that Clemson game. That's like, we can hear he's going to be ready for summer. We can hear that and still have some apprehension and be like, okay, yeah, but what does it really look like? To back that up with now saying, oh, yeah, by the way, he was running 21 miles per hour on the GPS the other day. Foot looks like it's feeling pretty darn good there for Sam Leavitt. That's massive, massive news for LSU. And then his quote on Orgeron's return, again, credit Pete Thamel, quote, It just seemed like the perfect time to bring him back. We talked for a number of days about it. We had to figure out exactly what it was. I feel awesome about it. He would add, when talking about having Orgeron be able to be on the road recruiting, he would add, that's a tremendous value anywhere, let alone the state of Louisiana. It does kind of seem like one of the perfect marriages. Those guys have worked together for a long time on multiple different staffs. I believe this is the fourth time that Lane Kiffin's hired Ed Orgeron. Of course, we all know Ed wanted to hire Lane, at LSU at one point. They seem to know they seem to just fit together. And the role they have Ed Orgeron in, look, I'm not going to tell you anything that nobody else has. It kind of just feels perfect for what it needs to be right now. Do I think it's absolutely insane that they finished paying him buyout money in December and now he's back on staff? Yeah, I think that's crazy. I think that's just but LSU's not a real place. LSU is a simulation. It just is. It's things happen at LSU that just happen nowhere else. You can throw this in there as one of them. But I think it's going to work out really well for LSU. And, Lane Kiffin obviously feels the same way, otherwise he wouldn't have done it. And this was kind of like a really poorly kept secret. Ed Orgeron was asked about this starting back in October of last year, before Lane Kiffin was even hired as the head coach at LSU. You knew that's the direction LSU was going, and you knew that these guys had a history, and here it is. So this feels like you maximize the best of Ed Orgeron in this role. So, we talked a little bit about it with Shay earlier in the show as well. If you missed that conversation, you can find it on demand, YouTube, podcast, all of those places search AFR LSU. But it feels really good, to kind of talk about alignment. I don't know if you get more alignment than those two together with the familiarity that they have, and really allowing Ed to go out there and be Ed. So Lane Kiffin officially addresses that for the first time on the record, because it was a bummer. The Pardon My Take interview dropped like the day before that it happened. But, what are you going to do? We'll continue to keep you updated here from SEC spring meetings as the week goes along. Like I said, I'm sure we'll head out there and get I'm actually working on that right now. Get somebody, to hop on who's there covering it and give us all the deets. College football playoff, obviously a huge talking point there this week, as is the potential for SEC breaking away. I know Greg Sankey's had some comments on that, so we'll get an update there, and we'll monitor everything else that Lane Kiffin says while he's at the podium, and hopefully bring you some of that on tomorrow's show as well. Matt is back on the show tomorrow. A quick little getaway from him out there in Arizona, as he talked about on air. So he'll be back with us here in studio, ready to go on tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show will have a pretty heavy baseball flavor, as well as we're into the LSU off season. We've already seen some movement there. Maverick Rizzi announcing that he's going to enter the transfer portal. He's the first. He will not be the last from this current LSU team. We'll grab a break, come back on the other side. We'll wrap up the show with Otterlocks, see what Jimmy's got for us tonight. What are we betting on? That's next to close out a Tuesday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. I love sharing 5-star Google reviews. Here's one from Ricky Gomez, who said Chris, his technician, was very professional and knowledgeable during the HVAC evaluation. He provided details and recommendations in a clear and concise manner. That's one of the things that always stands out. If you're having an issue with your AC or your heater, and River City's 1 Hour Air sends out a technician for an evaluation, they're going to explain your options to you. And that may sound simple, but none of it, I don't know anything about an HVAC, neither do you. Let's be honest. So whenever they go get up in your attic or they go look at your HVAC unit on the side of your house and they come talk to you, they're going to explain very clearly what's happening and your options to remedy it. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. 752-0001.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Brought
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires at the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over, and you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.
All right, rolling along here on a not Friday. Wow, no, it is Tuesday. A Tuesday edition of AFR. First day back of the week. Let's wrap it up with Outer Locks.
Outer Locks.
All right, time to win some money.
Presented by Total Maintenance AC Repair. Same-day service means you will never sleep hot. 480-1000. We are Total Maintenance.
I think it's safe to say that I won the bet.
That just shows I'm still in Memorial Day weekend mode. Otter, how's it going?
Doing good, buddy. How about you?
Doing fantastic, man. Been a great day. Good show. Good show. See, we got a 5-pack tonight.
Yeah, let's start off in the NBA, man. The trend that I'm liking in this matchup is that Spurs seem to be getting a little bit healthier. De'Aaron Fox, who's the only guy with playoff experience before the Spurs postseason run started, he played 30 minutes last game, and they pulled him out when it got out of hand. Later, he could have played more, so that is moving in the right direction. A couple of key players for Williams is definitely out tonight, and they have another one of their key players out. Not a starter, but looks like the injury trend. I'm going to take any type of points. I expect a very, very tight game at OKC. Obviously, huge game in this series. Both, by the way, either one of these teams will be a considerable favorite. We're talking about like 250 to 270 over the Knicks should they advance. In baseball, we got 4 games for you. Arizona blew out San Francisco last night. We're looking for the same today. Rodriguez versus Molly here is a big pitching advantage for the Diamondbacks, and they are a better team. Gives the Diamondbacks there. A Seminara came with the Yankees minus 1.5 runs on the road. We'll lay it on the road with Schlittler. He's been incredible. The Royals have had issues scoring runs, and they blew a 9th-inning lead yesterday in an afternoon game against the Yankees. They've lost their last 12 against the Yankees. We're going to go with the Yankees. Tampa Bay already up 1-0. You're not going to get that line at minus 110, 112 now.
No.
Griffin Jacks has made the transition pretty smoothly from the bullpen to a starter's role over Shane Baz. So Tampa Bay blew 3 different leads in the last extra innings. Look for them to bounce back. And then St. Louis, this line is creeping up. We think it's a pitching wash between St. Louis and Milwaukee. 2 of those teams in the NL Central that all have winning records. Milwaukee's hot, but St. Louis has had a very good start as well. The youngest roster in all of Major League Baseball. That's too big of a price. They certainly have a shot in that one. We're taking the Cardinals. I've seen as much as plus 80 out there right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at 78, plus 178 here at DraftKings. And then, yeah, you're right. I mean, the Rays are now minus $1.96. Oh, excuse me, minus 207 now, Otter. So, yeah, I don't think let's go to the website. You can get it early there. 5-pack there from the Otter. Spurs plus 4.5. Diamondbacks money line. Yankees run line. Missed the Rays, and Cardinals plus money, big dog, coming back there on the money line. Otter, where are y'all tomorrow?
Oh, we got our Mid-City Tunnel going. We're going from Doe's today over to Roca tomorrow. So Roca Pizzeria, awesome place, man, not just for pizza, but all kinds of great stuff. And they're doing a great job. We enjoy going over there to Roca. Roca in Mid-City for tomorrow's show, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Some really good pizza. Y'all get over there and see the guys, Jimmy and Hanny, for live at lunch. Otter, we appreciate it. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck. That is Jimmy out again. Spurs, 4.5, plus 4.5. Diamondbacks on the money line, the Yankees on the run line, and the Cardinals on the money line. That one coming back plus 178, 180 in that range. Monitor the Rays. Maybe they fall behind, and you can hop on them at a better price there at on the money line. All right, that's just about going to do it here for us on a Tuesday edition of AFR. Thank you to Jordan. Thank you to Paul. Enjoyed filling in here for a couple of days for Matt. He is back tomorrow. He's going to have a lot to talk about between spring meetings, Saints OTAs, the LSU baseball offseason, all of it. We'll have you covered from 3 to 6. That's on Wednesday's AFR, presented by Your Goodwood. Be back for that.
AFR.
Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. For many, it's back to the grind. And if that's the case, remember, Rouse's has you covered. Every Tuesday is $5 Sushi Tuesday. So maybe you're not looking to cook tonight or for lunch, easy. Just swing on into Rouse's, go on over to the sushi section. It's all hand-rolled there, daily, fresh, delicious, and $5 sushi. Every Tuesday, grab your favorite. Grab everyone in the family their own favorite. And you'll be the hero when you get home for dinner tonight over at Rouse's. Every Tuesday, it's $5 sushi. We always encourage you to make sure you get to the website or to their Facebook page. They do a great job at Rouses.com. Rouses.com updating that weekly ad. So if you want to know what's on special this week, if you're out grocery shopping, you can always get to Rouses.com to shop ahead or download that Rouses app. Remember, they got the Rouses app. Your personal shopper will go pick out your items for you, bring it out to the vehicle when you pull into one of the designated spaces. Rouses.com. Rouses. This feels like home.